Hey everybody. Hope you guys are having a great day, great night. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. I had some problems here, something with the streaming setup, but I'm pretty sure everything's working fine. So let me know if you guys hear me fine, and we'll get started here shortly. Definitely had a nice move yesterday, into this morning. This is something that I was forecasting, hoping for, honestly, for the past month and a half. It's been some time now. Um, it's been a lot of time since Bitcoin had that move down, and we've kind of just been hanging out, and it's been a very interesting position. So yeah, we're gonna break down some thoughts here and kind of share where I think we need to be paying attention to before we could really get too excited here. Um, so yeah, just let me know if you guys are hearing me fine. Someone could just tell me here. From my end, I believe so. But I want to talk to nobody here if not coming through properly. I would take that as a yes. Yeah, the first thing I want to share here is I posted this chart a little bit ago, and this was a very interesting thing that came out that I didn't even really realize where we were. That Bitcoin and really the top six coins, they had their largest short liquidation event in over 6 months. The last time that we saw that many shorts get taken out was back on July 10th. So a long, long time ago. And that really tells us a pretty interesting thing. Basically that we're at a point where, when you have a large amount of liquidations get taken out like that, it's really going to tell you, one or two things. It's going to tell you, okay, shorts got taken out. This is a false break higher, and we're getting ready for another leg down. Or obviously it's that shorts got taken out because it's been such an easy position to short over the last 2 months, and the tides can be shifting. So I really don't see an in between, which is a pretty interesting thing for me to say. It's like we're either breaking 100K, gonna see some type of trend shift happen here with prices going higher, or this really is just kind of a fake out before a next leg down, which is it's an interesting thought. Because if we pop over here, take a look here at Bitcoin on a higher time frame, I think the last stream I kind of shared this very similar thing was, in 2022 we had a move down like this, and then look, we went sideways for about 2 months. We popped up, and this was interesting because what happened here was is very similar to what's happening right now. Look, we basically took out a resistance level that we were stuck under for a while. We tried to regain the yearly VWAP, which we all know is it's a very important kind of bull market band that we followed for a long time now. And look what happened. That was a trap. It was a big, big trap, and obviously a bunch of shorts probably got liquidated here. People thought we were back because we broke a clear resistance, and then sure enough, we went much further down. So obviously, I'm not saying I believe that that's where we are, but I think it's something to keep in the back of our mind where big resistance level coming into the early VWAP here. If we can see a push higher and then that does not sustain and we come back down here, I think we should probably be a little bit on edge, a little bit cautionary, um, because obviously that would tell us, hey, a bunch of positioning stacked up here without, price doesn't usually give you many clear entries if price is going lower. What it's going to do is it's going to take you out exactly like we saw right here on this chart, largest short liquidation event in over 6 months. Like that's not a little something to say. Like it's a pretty substantial thing to believe. It was right on this move here. If we zoom in, we could see, oh, well, $100 million big short squeeze happen here. And sure enough, all the people that thought they were going to get a free route down to, in the 70K, they're now out. Or if they aren't out now, maybe a few $1,000s higher, a lot of those people will get squeezed. So I think that that's really what my eyes will be on over the next week too is, number one, are we going to get up to that level? So obviously, like I said, I've been looking at this move towards 100K honestly since we first got down here, since late November. This has been on my mind. It's like, okay, 100K was such an important level, and you look here on this TPO chart here, I have a bunch of VWAPs that I kind of used to anchor VWAPs from back here at this range. And look at where those all kind of coincide. They all perfectly coincide perfectly with that yearly VWAP right there. Also, too, the white line is the election VWAP, very important level as well. And I think this pink line right here is the 50-week. Yeah, this is the 50-week EMA. Very similar to the yearly VWAP as for like a bull market BAM. And, sure enough, they all coincided at almost the exact level, within a few $1,000s, should we say. So my thoughts this whole time have been, okay, if we are going lower, we're probably going to turn that into a resistance zone first. Logically, you lose that level like we did here, then you come back and revisit it, and if you can't regain it, okay, tides have turned. So I think it's a very important level that we're at now. Let me know if you guys have any questions or elaborations on that, but I think it should be pretty clear. I want to make it as clear as possible that it's like we're at a crossroads here. And I know we could always say, yeah, up or down. I think this is a little bit deeper. This is a little bit deeper in the sense that it's not just up or down. It's either we're back in the 4-year cycle theory, bear market theory, and everything's going to get thrown out the door, or we're actually setting up for a big trap before probably 70s, somewhere in the 70K. I don't necessarily see a spot in between. So let me know your guys' thoughts on that. One other thing here is posted this chart. This was a few days ago, and this is total 3, obviously, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. And trend lines have been the easiest tool that I've used since the beginning of my journey in crypto. Back in 2016, 2017, when I first started looking at charts, trend lines, I loved them, and I still do now, but obviously I've moved on to more advanced types of analysis. That doesn't overshadow the fact that they're the simplest tool that are potentially some of the most effective tool. And sure enough, we could see multi-year, 2.5 year, I believe, about 2.5 year trend line here on total 3. Very clear bull market BAM. And sure enough, back in November, we lost that level. What are we doing now? We're trying to come back up and either reject that as resistance or turn that potentially back into support. So very important level here for total 3 as well. So I'm sure you guys can kind of see why I'm saying what I'm saying here is like, yeah, this is good. This is a good move, an expected move. But unless we see strong follow through, we see acceptance above 100K, this kind of is, regardless, setting us up for another leg down, if that makes sense. That doesn't mean another leg down is a guarantee, but what it is saying is that in hindsight, this is what would happen if another leg down is going to happen over the next months. You're always going to look back and say, oh yeah, broke a level, came back up, turned it to resistance, and here we are now. So total 3 kind of just confirms my thesis on that. Is a very clear level. Same thing with the yearly VWAP, not as clean here. We could see we spent more time below it as we did on Bitcoin. This trend line here is not too much to argue with. And I think that this chart at this moment needs probably about another 5 to 7, 8% to really get back in a comfortable position, so we say. Depends on if DXY goes above 100K. I've not looked at DXY in a little bit. We can look at DXY. I think that the relationship of that has not been as clear as it used to be. We could actually look at it right now. DXY used to be a very clear mover. Oh, perfect. I have my chart up here that I've had this think I drew this years ago, and it was a very, very clear kind of relationship that we had. If we even put Bitcoin over top of this, see here that most of Bitcoin's bull runs happen. The DXY was in a clear downtrend. See, DXY clear downtrend. Same time, Bitcoin went from $700 to 20K. DXY starts going up, Bitcoin goes in its bear market. DXY starts going down after COVID, Bitcoin goes from 4 or 5K to almost 70K. Same thing here. DXY starts its run up, Bitcoin puts in a top, goes in a bear market. Right at the low here, DXY already started going down, but then look, DXY has not had that clear kind of just straight move down. And I think that at this point, yeah, like there's not much of a correlation anymore for me to be confident. I see somebody asked if we're in a bear market. Technically speaking, yes, this is considered a bear trend. I'm going to be easy with saying bear market because, in my honest opinion, I don't think that Bitcoin is in these same type of markets. I don't believe it, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know my reasoning behind that. But if you don't, my reasoning is pretty clear. The last 2 cycles, Bitcoin went up and grew in a very parabolic, quick manner, unsustainable in a way, moved up thousands and thousands of percent. COVID straight line up. This run has been a lot more steady, a lot more stable, where it's kind of came back and sort of checked its work each time it's moved higher. This is a much more stable trend. I've said this last live stream, if Bitcoin were to come back down in a deep manner, really below 50, 60K in my opinion, that's a problem. I think that's a super big problem because that would show immense weakness on Bitcoin. It would show that this move higher was not even a sustained move with actual bid support behind it. So to answer your question, yes, it is technically a bear trend. The reason we could say that is because of the yearly VWAP, this orange line right here. That's why I posted that earlier, and I said one line to rule them all. You can see when we're in a bull market, we're above this line. Right when we lose this line, that's considered a bear trend, bear market. So it's a pretty clear, straightforward thing. If you guys have not already added my VWAP suite, definitely do that. It's a very useful tool, very useful indicator. But we can see here, 2018 to 2016 to 20 bull trend, we were well above that yearly VWAP. Lost that mid 2018, and then bam, same concept here. Regained it, bull market, lost it. And this is kind of where I said, potentially we are somewhere right around here if we are going lower. And same concept, whole bull market, we've held it. The last 2 big lows happened right at those levels. And here we are now trading below it. So, it's a pretty clear, straightforward level, along with the 50-week moving average. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Let me know what you guys think. You guys think that we're, setting up ourselves for another leg down, or are we, back? And this whole bear trend situation is coming to an end here. Let me know what you guys think. But yeah, now let's take a look at the order books, because this was one of the big reasons why I was pretty bullish. Not super bullish, but leaning more towards, hey, we should see a breakout of that 94, 95K. Was because the order books super clear here. We could see here, I make these a little bit cleaner. You can see here on Binance, or this is Coinbase. Actually, these are both Coinbase. Binance right here. But essentially, we had a big kind of gap in the order book, and see if that still confirms that Binance chart still pretty much similar. This is a lot of resistance down here. When you see stuff like this above you, you should be probably a little bit concerned. But here, nothing too big at all. Same thing here on Coinbase, nothing too big at all. Right when we got above that 94, 95K, we've been moving pretty fast. So my post, what was it, a few days ago, I really said that above 95K, we should see things move fast. And and since then it has actually moved fast. So let's see what happens here. As we speak, it looks like there's not going to be too much resistance up until that 100K mark. And then, of course, we have some resistance here at that 100. Take a look here. Lower levels. Coinbase looks like a pretty free ride to 100K. Making new highs right now as we speak. About 99.5 is where that next level is. Surprisingly, above that, should I say, it's even clear above 100K, guys. Now, will that continue? It's something that we'll have to keep our eyes open on. But as we speak, I mean, not much right there. Not much right there as well. Kind of just have a little stuff at 100K, and that's a big psychological level, so we got to keep that in mind. But then above 100K, I mean, man, this is a clear order book. Completely clear. At least as we speak. Sure, that can change. But as we speak, this is a pretty free ride for bulls. Honestly, very, very free ride. I haven't really looked at this up until all that breakout last night. So this is going to be interesting. I'll be keeping close eyes on this. But, as we speak, it doesn't look bad. What we need the other side of the equation is, we need bulls to continue with this pressure that we're seeing. Take a look here at, the spot flows. Take a look at the last 3 hours here. We've had pretty good participation on every exchange. Obviously, Binance leading the pack here. Coinbase really involved as well. OKX, Kraken, everything's pushing higher. So something we have not seen in some time. Definitely something we have not seen in some time, and we can't ignore it, but it needs to continue. When we have clear order books like this is a good setup that we're seeing here, but without any buy pressure, doesn't mean much. You could have a complete open order book, but if no one wants to buy, it's not going to do you too well. Before we move on from the order books here, take a look at the perp market. I can open. Let's see what's Binance Futures. The skew is a lot more in favor of bulls, actually. And yeah, on the perp market, really nothing at all up there as well. So also something interesting for us to know. Not much at all. Got a little stuff that popped up here, but nothing too crazy. So yeah, really can't say anything negative about the order book situation at the moment. I'm thinking XRP goes to 190s potentially before next leg up. Personally, I think we make an all-time high this year. It's going to be an interesting thought. I also shared a chart about that. Really, what was it, a few days ago? Yesterday, actually. It was XRP is in a position where it's still in a bullish setup. So before we move on, actually, let's take a look at the order books on it. And as usual, you guys have anything you want me to expand on? Feel free to throw that in the chat. Any questions or clarification? Always like to, whatever that may be. Let's see here. By the looks of it, doesn't look too crazy here. Yeah, very, very clear order books here. Just low liquidity environment, guys. Really what we need to understand about where we're at in this market. Very low liquidity, very low participation as well. Even seeing engagement on Twitter much lower than it's been over the last 2 years. Most people walked away. For you guys that are even on here right now, you guys must have some dedication. Because yeah, it seems like over the last 2 years I've been active on Twitter early for about a year and a half. Yeah, most people have walked away here. So what's it going to take to get people excited again? Maybe a break of 100K to see some headlines and people start, getting excited again. But the vibes are definitely gone. Vibes are gone from what they were. So, but yeah, as for XRP here, I mean, nothing on the order books for add an eye at. As we can see from the eye. Not sure what happened there. Market Monkey. 5 gigabytes of memory up here. But yeah, moral of the story is, very clear order books here. So we all know what that means. What that means is when you have a clear order book, You have a clear path to, you know, make price move. But you need the other side of the equation always. You need aggressive buyers. Everyone here, sure a lot of you guys know, but there's two sides of the equation on how a price moves. It's the depth and the thickness and liquidity in the order book, and then it's the aggression of the market orders. You know, if we could see here, here's a view of the order book. Let's make this a little bit more granular, up to 240. We could see all these orders we have, you know, up to 240 right now on Binance. If you market bought $4 million or 4 million XRP, you'd basically push the price to 240 instantly. Okay, that tells you how much resistance there is in the book, right? You can see the equal amount down to 195, you get about 6 million. What does this show you? It shows you that in whatever that percentage is, I would believe it's probably, you know, about 20-30%. It's a lot easier to push price higher than it is lower. You need about 50% more money to push price the same amount lower as the same amount higher. You guys hear me okay there? CC said I'm cutting out. Hopefully you guys can hear me now. But essentially, you always need two sides of the equation. So when you guys see me post about order books, just know that's telling you the environment that we're in. That's not giving you a perfect prediction of what's going to happen. It's telling you, hey, it's easy for price to go up here, or it's hard for price to go up here, and vice versa. Just always keep that in mind. Let's see what else you guys got there. What are your thoughts on ETF inflows? Is the 30% move on XRP because of the inflows? How long will it take the OTC orders to affect the market? Honestly, I have not looked at XRP inflows. You guys have looked at XRP inflows, then, you know, let me know what website I could use. If any of you guys know, throw in the chat what website I could use, and I'd love to take a look at that. Well, yeah, so moving on, I guess since we're on the topic of XRP, let's take a quick look here at XRP's chart. And really on the high time frame here, this is what I was sharing the other day. Let's take a look here. This is what I shared, I think this was yesterday. I basically said is that XRP on a high time frame is not in a bad view at all. You know, it really isn't. It's in the spot where you'd expect it to hold this level and go higher, right? Anytime you see price move up higher, you know, it usually wants to come back and make a staircasing pattern. We just had this actually up on Bitcoin here. Let's see if we can pull this back up. This was something I'm sure you guys, if you guys have joined my streams over the last 6, 7, 8 months, you guys saw me talk about this a lot, but this whole bull cycle has been Bitcoin breaking resistance and turning it into support. Break resistance, turn into support. Break resistance, turn into support. I just like to call that a stair-stepping pattern, right? It's a very easy way to think about the market, very easy way to think about how price moves. If we go back and we apply that to XRP right here, what is it doing? Well, it was at a resistance level for a long time here. We can see big resistance level, put on a high time frame here. We could see perfect rejection about that $2 mark. And we've now been over this for over a year. It's been over a year that XRP's been hanging out above this level. And, you know, it's a pretty interesting feat to see. You know, many people that were involved in it, they were holding it down in the cents for a long, long time. And here we are now. We have 2 years over, or sorry, 1 year over $2. So that's really my simplest thoughts on XRP. You know, we lose this level on a high time frame, we're cooked. You know, the entire hopes and dreams of XRP is absolutely cooked. So, you know, that's really all that you can really say about XRP. It's going to hold that $2 mark, or we're cooked. And of course, that's really perfectly going to coincide with what Bitcoin's doing right here. Well, Bitcoin gets above this 100K mark that we've been talking about here, and it can hold and sustain. We're in good shape. But if this becomes that rejection and that fake out that we saw in 2022, then we're not in good shape. We're not in good shape on many altcoins. Most of them already haven't been in good shape. So that's really my thoughts on XRP is like, you're going to hold this level, you're going to hold that $2 level, or, you know, we're going to have to look at lower prices. which is an unfortunate thing after a whole year holding above that level. Let's see here. I think some of the crypto fans jump ship to precious metals, gold, silver, and copper. Silver was 27 troy ounce less than a year ago. Yeah, that's definitely true. You know, a lot of people I think did jump ship, but I obviously the way that gold and silver move, that they move in very strong trends, but that only happens every 5-10 years. As we've seen, it's been a very interesting way. So, but at this point, I don't think that there's I wouldn't consider there much money left on that train. Maybe another 100%, 200% if we're being very optimistic. But otherwise, I think if crypto sees a little revival for a few months, you'll see what it took metals a year and a half to do what some of these cryptos will do in a month or two. So it's a different market, that's for sure. Did you see Monero? Incredible. Yeah, Monero has been an absolutely incredible mover. It's something I actually have kept eyes on for a while now. I made a bunch of charts about Monero all throughout this range, and I actually got involved in this wick, and then I believe that I sold right up here. So I sold a little bit early, still was happy with my gains, but man, thing took off, and what can we say? Market's just a lot different than it used to be. All we can really. So yeah. Final thing about XRP is the US oil chart. Obviously, this has been one of my favorite charts for a long time here. Long time here. And sure enough, it's still in its year and a half range. So there's not really much else you can say besides, hey, still in a range, and until this becomes support, until this becomes resistance and we get out of this range, we should just expect chop. Expect crazy moves, expect chop. But I think I just want to continue to hone in on the idea that, like, we can get as excited as we want. We got to realize all our eyes should be on Bitcoin. It should be on Bitcoin. It should be on this 100K mark right here. I know it's so clear, it's so simple, it's so subjective, but it really is. Yeah, it really is clear as day. It's clear as day. Like this 12-month rolling VWAP here, and even if we switch over and just share what I just did here on X, just earlier today, this was a very, very clear chart. It's very simple. One line to rule them all. Yearly rolling VWAP. Put it on your chart, add the VWAP suite. It's as clear as day. If Bitcoin cannot get above this level, we got to throw out any idea of, majors doing anything major. It's really that simple. That's why I love these VWAPs. They're such an effective way to, analyze the chart. So definitely add that if you guys have not. But really, I mean, if you guys want my clearest thoughts, it's all my eyes are on this level right here. And we need to see continued sustained moves above this and holding this, or else, we're really in an odd spot. Really, like we're going to be in an odd spot, and we're not going to be in a fun time over the next few months. I'm not necessarily leaning towards that just yet. We need to see how price reacts up here, but I think that's kind of just what I want you guys to take away from this is, like, as excited as we can be, as excited as we can talk about levels here on this, on XRP, on that. Unless Bitcoin is above this 100K mark, and it's holding above all of these VWAPs here, it's really going to be it's going to be down to the wire. So, let's see what else you guys had here. There's a good website called XRP Insights. I believe it breaks down the inflows and outflows and volume across ETFs. Pretty interesting. We could take a look at that. Let's see here. XRP Insights. The ETF tracker. Let's take a quick look. Let's see here. So 788 million XRP, if I'm seeing that right. Capital. Meeting combined total 788. So that's a good amount, but I think we need to keep in mind here, guys, that Bitcoin, I believe, as we speak, has Let me just verify over here on the side. I believe Bitcoin has over $40 billion of ETF, ETFs, money in the ETF, $40 billion. So we got to keep in mind, like your question there about OTC and, if the effects of, these ETF inflows will show on the price. At the level we're at right now, I don't believe so. It's plenty enough XRP for these people to continue to fulfill these ETF inflows without having to go to the open market. And obviously, that's something I talked about so much the last year and a half about Bitcoin. And, in my honest opinion, we're going to need a little bit more than that. We're going to need probably 3 to 4 times the amount of this for us to say, okay, we might be seeing an effect of these ETF inflows on the actual price chart. On the actual open market, we might be needing, these issuers or whoever's fulfilling their ETF inflows. We're going to need about 3-4 billion, in my opinion, for us to say, okay, there could be a point where they're actually going towards the open market using algorithms to accumulate more XRP, and we could be seeing a positive price movement based on those inflows. At this level right here, it's just not enough. This could be Chris Larsen fulfilling all those ETF inflows. Funny as it is. Well, here, let me take a look here at the ETF inflows on Bitcoin. I know Velo's got a very good chart. It'd be nice if they can add. Didn't add XRP on here, I don't believe. TradFi. I see it. Yeah, I can't find it over here. But yeah, moral of the story is we're gonna need a lot more ETF inflows, about 3 times more for at least me to believe that we can see a positive price move based on those inflows, if that makes sense. Do you foresee Bitcoin crossing 100K, come fall back down to 85 to 88 again, or once 100K is swept, it goes up and over the next 2 to 3 months? My opinion is pretty clear on that, where, if we take into account this chart right here, where was I? This chart right here of, the VWAP sweep on a high time frame here. We take into account this chart. Take into account this of all these VWAPs here. I know this is a crazy busy chart, but it's got power to it. If we see ourselves above 100K and we're holding there, and we see a move towards 105 and we're holding there, something very similar to how we saw it move up here. This was just like everybody was waiting for a pullback. Then no, I don't think we're going to look back. But if we see a move up to 100K, or even where we're at now, maybe a little bit higher. This sits at 99.3 right now, maybe up to 98, 99. And then in a week, we're back down here. That is not a good look. And like I said at the beginning of the stream, it's not a good look. Why? Because what did that do? What that basically did is that cleared out all of the shorts, not all of them, but a lot of them, that built up over the last, few months. We go on a higher time frame here. Let's do it the last 30 days. We can see that, we had a massive amount of shorts get liquidated here. Actually, the Bitcoin one short shows it a little bit better. We had a massive amount of shorts get liquidated up here. And, if we just sit and think, why is that kind of significant? It's significant because the market doesn't like to give people free rides, right? So if you were involved in Bitcoin on the short side over the last 3 months, Bitcoin was going sideways, not doing much. Then we came up here, took out all the shorts. That's what happens before you go lower, right? So that's really where I'm at with it, is we're either back, and this is going to be a sustained nice move, kind of like we saw right here. You guys remember this? I stayed really bullish up here. Why? Because of the spot premium. We saw this move here. Funding was low. Spot premium didn't even budge. And I said back in the past, when you have a lot of big crazy move, you lose the spot premium. We see a move like this, it keeps everyone sidelined. So it's either that's the start of where we're at right now and everyone's about to be sidelined, or this really is the trap before we go and make a new low. Like I said, I know that's like a, it's an up or a down scenario. It is, but with a lot more detail. A lot more detail in the sense that it's not like, oh, we'll just go down a little bit. No, I think we're going to 70K if this breakout of 100K fails. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. I heard if the president's tariffs are considered unconstitutional, stocks, maybe crypto, might see some bulls. Just a speculation for now. It's potential. I'm not a big fundamental guy at this point, and people might ask me why. Well, it's pretty simple why. Think about all of the fundamental news things that we've seen over the last year with crypto. What has it done? Or I should say last year. What did it do? Trump got in. All the regulation. If you think back of when he got in, I think within 6 months we were supposed to have clear regulations, right? Where are we at now? We're still waiting on the Genius Act. We're still waiting on this. We're still waiting on that. So I'm really not going to attach myself to any fundamental here because, we look at the stock market. Stock market's looking, it's not looking like crypto. Sure, we might see some pullbacks here, but for the most part, stocks haven't cared. While Bitcoin here has been in a multi-month 20-30% downtrend. So I'm not going to attach myself to any type of fundamental news just because how's it helped us? The only fundamental news I've seen work in the crypto market over the last few years was the ETFs. ETFs launched down here, and sure, that kicked off a big move. Other than that, nothing that we've hoped and dreamed about on the fundamental news side has done anything for the crypto market in a positive way. Not up to date on your recent thoughts on the 4-year cycle. Believe you think it's not intact, but any thoughts wait on Bitcoin Gold having topped a year ago in terms of cycles? I do believe that. Bitcoin Gold is definitely in a top cycle. But at the same time, that's because gold is on a, once in a decade type move. Yes, obviously it's pretty clear that this topped a year ago, but does that give us much right now? No. And why? Because, and this is, I have a bone to pick with the people that believe that Bitcoin Gold chart is like, the holy grail, is because, well, let's pull up gold. Let's pull up gold. Let's put it on a monthly chart. Let's say, okay, look at what gold's done. The last time it did that was back in 2008. 2002 to 2012. Bitcoin wasn't even a thought to most people then. So for the first time in over a decade, gold's having a big move, which it only ever does either every 10, 15, 20, 30 years. People are looking at this Bitcoin Gold chart like it's, like the Holy Grail. It's not to me. Why? Because you're not taking into account that for the first time in this entire chart, gold's having its once in a decade type move. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Like, not saying this chart wasn't useful, because it was. It kind of showed us a divergence when Bitcoin did go higher. This didn't. Sure, that was useful. But right now, for us to say that's super useful, I don't see the substance in that. Because, of course, it's not going to look good. Gold's on a once in a decade type move. So, yeah. Beyond that, I think that those are my strong thoughts here. We'll take a look here at Sol. I don't know if any of you guys have interest in Sol, but if you guys want me to take a look at anything specific, definitely throw that in the chat. I've always loved to expand on everything here. So don't be afraid to ask any questions. Throw it in the chat. Or if you guys want me to look at anything specific. But Sol here. Sol's one of the coins that I still hold. Sol and XRP are the two coins that I've still held. Accumulated Sol down here, so obviously still in good profit. XRP have held that for too long. But I'm still holding those coins, and obviously, I'm holding them because I believe there's still a chance that within the next year or so, they do see a higher move. Sol's in a very similar spot to XRP in a way. It's not at a 7-8 year resistance or 7-8 year level that XRP was at, but it's in the same concept that we look like when Sol went up here, did it so fast, and look, it came right back down. That was a bearish move, right? This time, look what Sol's done. I mean, it's went sideways up here at its resistance level. And on a log chart, you could see it even more. You come up here, lose it quick, right? Sol comes up here, it does this now. What is this, 2 years? We're going on 2 years. You know, Sol's been above basically $100 for 2 years. So for that to do that for 2 years and then just to come back down, that'd be a really, really, really weird chart. Be a really weird way for any type of chart to move, because you got to think about it psychology wise. You know, you have a big move, you accept up here, price accepts up here for over 2 years, then you just lose it. It'd be odd. So technically speaking, using, you know, technical analysis, base level knowledge of it, this type of move precedes another move higher. And sure, who knows? You might see something like this and that, and you might get another fake out of the range. But for the most part, I don't see a world where Sol is not above $300 over the next 2 years. I know we're talking far out here, but you know, it's a good way to think about, I think, how charts move. When you go somewhere and you don't hang out there for a long time, prices doesn't want to accept up there. But when you go somewhere and you're up there for 2 years, price is pretty comfortable up there. And obviously, we could see here Sol's it's looking better than it has over the last 2.5 months. So very similar to Bitcoin, though. See, Bitcoin just broke that resistance. Look at Sol. Very, you know, it's a little bit lagging behind. This exact level here is the same exact level we see here on Bitcoin. So same concept, I think, with Sol. You know, we got to see a sustained move up here. Got to see a sustained move towards 170 for us to get, you know, I guess more excited here. TRX, sure. Take a look. TRX has been one of those coins that's just crazy. I still have my wedge here back in 2023 when I posted this. And man, who would have thought that this chart would have looked the best that it has? You know, the best crypto chart ever. Crazy to say. But yeah, I mean, as for TRX, I think, you know, it's a pretty straightforward chart. We're in a pretty clear uptrend for many, many years. And at this point, I mean, until that uptrend breaks, you should expect just a very slow move higher. And the reason why I don't get too interested in this was it moves very low percent. Very, very low percent. 50% it took 5 months to do. But for the most for the most part, this is just a chart that will keep chucking its way up. But as for seeing any crazy type of return on here, you know, I wouldn't be too convinced of that right now. Stable thing to hold, absolutely, without a doubt. So, all right, yeah, I covered a lot of the main things I wanted to here. Really, you know, I wanted to hone in on what we talked about here with Bitcoin, kind of how important the level is that we're at, and then obviously what I shared just a little bit ago about liquidations. It's a very, I love interesting metrics like this. I'm sure some of you guys do too, but like to see the most amount of short liquidations that we've seen in 6 months, pretty crazy. You know, pretty crazy to think that yesterday produced the most amount of bears getting taken out in a long, long time. You know, long time. So that tells us that people are, you know, they're at least activity is spiking here. Activity spiking, and we're reaching a crossroads. That crossroads either sends us back towards a new all-time high mid-year, maybe even sooner, or it sends us down to 70Ks. Don't see an in-between. So, you know, I'd love to see, or I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are. I think that there's a pretty equal split of people that believe, no, bear market's here, you know, this year is going to be bearish, which sure, they have their reasons. The reasons are pretty simple. It's because it's happened the last 2-3 times. But then at the same time, there's also reasons to believe, hey, we're not just going to follow the same thing we've always followed. So that's really the crossroads that we're at, and I think I'm happy to be more active here, sharing more updates because over the last few months I was definitely a little bit away, but for good reason. I was working on different things in my own life, but at the same time, who wanted to be involved in this market when nothing was happening? Since this leg down, I mean, this has been brutal. And sure enough, we're breaking that range right now, and we're seeing a sustained push that we have not seen in some time. So we're at the crossroads. We're at an interesting point. Shorts are getting taken out, and we can see here. Let's take a look now at who's really pushing and getting involved here. Let's take a look at the last 7 days. I know the spot market's been pretty hefty. Yeah, similar concept. I mean, we're seeing some sustained pushing happen here on the spot market. So definitely not a negative thing to witness here. Can't watch it live, but great to have you streaming again. Have a great day, Dom. Thanks for popping in, man. Not sure if you cover Tau or BitTensor. It's got a 3.1 billion market cap. I need some bullish commentary on it. Yeah, we'll take a look there. And if you guys have anything else, let me know. If not, then probably wrap up the stream here a little bit shorter. Or, we've been going for about 50 minutes, but I don't want to keep repeating myself. I think you guys made it pretty clear with what to look at and what to keep our eyes on, and really that we're at an interesting point we haven't been at in time here. So yeah, I'll take a look here at Tau, and then anything else you guys want me to cover before I hop off, definitely throw it in the chat. Tau actually looks pretty good. Initial thoughts here on Tau. Obviously, we have a pretty clear level here that I believe that we're trying to flip into resistance. We can see here, or we're trying to flip back into support. Pretty clear level. This is what I consider most of the time of vertical accumulation, bullish vertical accumulation, ascending triangle type pattern. These used to work so good back in 2018, 19, 20, 21. Nowadays, nowadays it's definitely a little harder. I don't really use patterns, but the price actions, it's about what the price action's telling you. So, if you guys do use patterns yourself, just know that patterns necessarily aren't the reason price is going to do something. It's what the pattern's telling you is happening. We look at this ascending triangle here, and what does it tell us? Well, what it's telling us is that, bulls keep trying to push this higher, and each time bears try to, assert their dominance, they have less success doing it, right? And each time bears assert their dominance, their dominance is getting weaker, and then bulls are actually just pushing it right back to where it is. So what does it show? This shows like a hungry lion, following its prey. Each time it tries to slow down, the lion speeds up. So that's kind of what the price action tells you. Not necessarily the pattern. It's really what the psychology is behind what the pattern's telling you. So moral of the story is this doesn't look bad. To be completely honest with you, if Bitcoin sees that 100K break, and if we see some more sustained move, we can see a little bit of alts reviving. I'm not going to be surprised to see Tau push it back to about 350, right up to that yearly VWAP. So it'll be something I keep an eye on. And honestly, while I'm here, I'll put an alert on here just to just to have an alert, because this is kind of a good, for some people, this is a pretty good setup trade here. I put a little alert on there, crossing. But all right, so let's see what else you guys got here. Could you tell summary of chart stream just joined? Well, obviously it's hard to say 55 minutes in a few seconds, but for the most part, we're at a very important level here on Bitcoin. Bitcoin's at a big crossroads. This move here was not unexpected. I was suspecting this move. Kind of been talking about a push to 100K over the past month. Sure enough, many times that failed, but we're kind of getting that now. It's such an important level here, 100K. We're at the crossroads. We really break this, go to 105. and things are looking pretty good that we're back. A lot of the reason is simply because the yearly VWAP here, if I can efficient way that, let me see if I can pull it up here. But basically, a lot of the reasons why is the yearly VWAP on Bitcoin. 100K, we regain that. It's in a good position. If not, if bears fail that, then, if bulls fail that, then I think that we're looking at about 70K. And all the other coins are going to follow something along. How do you determine what time frame to use? I notice you sometimes use a 12-hour window. Do you just look for the time frame in the clearest picture? Um, Good question. It's really just, how far are you looking out? Am I trying to figure out what's going to happen in the next hour? Okay, I'm going to look at a 1 minute to a 5 minute. Am I trying to figure out what's going to happen in the next 6 hours, 12 hours? Okay, I'm going to look at a 15 minute, 30 minute, 1 hour. If I'm trying to look at what's happening over the next day, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, we're looking at 4 hour to 12 hour. Then anything above that, we're looking at what's happening over the next few weeks, month, or year. Oh, that's really how you determine it. But for me, I love higher time frames more. Obviously, higher the time frame, the clearer the picture. But for the most part, 12 hours is a good kind of mix. Super high time frame, but then kind of short time frame. So yeah, it's really is just preference as well. I have not covered Ethereum. We'll do that, and then if you guys don't have any other thoughts or questions, then I'll wrap up this. All right, so Ethereum here, very, very interesting chart here. And this has been something, I haven't really looked at this too much here, but very interesting spot. Actually, a very, very interesting spot. Glad that you had me bring it up here. Let's throw on a few more VWAP, see if we're at anything that's interesting. We're at the quarterly, and then let's see the 6 month. Month isn't irrelevant up there. So Ethereum's in a better spot than actually most. Is look, XRP's trading below 12-month, Bitcoin's trading below 12-month, Sol is trading below 12-month. Ethereum's actually above the 12-month, which is a change. Definitely not something that we've seen here on the other majors. But really, if I can clean this chart up here, it's a little bit dirty now. If I can clean this chart up, it's a very similar thought as what I said earlier in the stream, guys, about Total 3. Total 3 here is at that resistance level, right? Clear bull trend. Ethereum, very similar. We take out this fake out, and we just think to ourselves that Ethereum stayed here the whole time. We lost that bull trend that we've put in since 2022. Look what we're trying to do. Trying to regain that as support. So this all just adds more fuel to the fire, more support to my thesis that we're at a massive crossroads. Massive, massive crossroads where really, like, we're back. Bull trend's back in action. We're going to push higher the next 3 to 6 months. Or this is the perfect bull trap, bearish retest setup before prices go lower. I think regardless, everybody that's watching the stream, if you guys trade or you guys are invested, be prepared to capitalize on any scenario, right? I love being predictive. I'll do it sometime. But at the same time, if you always have a bias, you're not going to always make money. You're not going to always be on the right side of the trade, right? If you're super bullish right here and we reject up here after everything I just said, and you don't shift your approach and you don't shift your mindset about it, you're going to be caught holding the bag on this next leg down. But if you lose that bias and say, okay, pretty obvious, we have warning signs, we failed this, we failed to regain these levels, this is now a bearish retest, then, you should take the action to put yourself in a position to not get ran over by that type of scenario. So that's really my thoughts on Ethereum. Very similar thoughts to Bitcoin, Sol, everything here. Total 3. Look at how important this level is. And actually, let me clean this up even more. Take the VWAP suite off of there. Take this off. Clear bull trend. Still hanging out under it. On an even shorter time frame here. See that this is at a local resistance level. And sure enough, you know, we need to see the similar push through that Bitcoin is hopefully getting as we speak. But yeah, those are my thoughts there on Ethereum. Ethereum is actually not in that bad of a position compared to the other coins, at least structure wise. And the reason why is because Ethereum just lost itself last year. It completely lost itself. So yeah, guys, other than that, I think that really covers what I wanted to today. I guess before I go, if you guys are still in here, let me know if a different time of the day works for streams. I'm going to be trying to do a stream every week now. You know, get back on a weekly schedule here. But I'm not too sure if, you know, later in the day works for some of you guys. You guys would prefer later in the day. I know I have a lot of followers that are over on, you know, over in the Europe time zone, Asia. Obviously, I'm more on the Eastern time zone, but let me know if you guys, maybe I could run a poll as well, but definitely open to doing streams later in the day. That's of interest. Yeah, this ETF tracker, I'll have to dive deep to see where they're getting their data because I'd love to. Flow data is calculated from XRP holdings reported by each ETF issue. Also, if any of you guys know who's tracking these ETF flows, what this is from, who's doing this all, because I know that this is definitely made from Claude. Pretty nice dashboard though. DM me. DM me if any of you guys have any information about where they're getting this data. I'd love to make something like this a little bit cleaner because this is a little busy. It's definitely an awesome chart, awesome dash. You still held a good position in Bitcoin. How would you play these upcoming levels? Well, you know, I think that really depends on where you bought it. You bought your Bitcoin here. You know, if you bought your Bitcoin down very low, you got a lot of time to hold on to that Bitcoin because I think ultimately, yes, Bitcoin is going to go higher. Whether it takes 6 months, a year, or two, it's going to go higher. So, you know, it depends on your time frame. But really, the way I'm going to play this market right now is we get up here towards 100K. You know, the flows start fading out because right now we could see we're seeing consistent flows. We're seeing consistent flows here. You know, we're seeing Binance, Coinbase, everybody's pushing, everybody's interested up here. We get to 100K and you know, we start seeing some sell-offs here. We start seeing these flows flatten out. That's the first sign of a you know, weakening move. And then if we retrace a lot of this, we're back down to 94, we're back down. That's when it's like, okay, you know, a concerning point to be at. And to show that on the chart real quick, really what it is this level right here that we, you know, I looked at with all these bubbles here. Bitcoin gets back up here and it or even if it slows down around here and we get back and we lose this, man, I would look out. I'd look out below. I think that we'll be going down to at least 80K, if not 70s. Knowledge, appreciate you, homie. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you guys as always for joining. Yeah, not many of you guys in here. We used to have about 100 to 130 people. Looks like now we can only get about 40, 50 people in here. So, you know, if you guys are still here, hey, you guys got the effort down. Hopefully the vibes can return here. From Europe here, time is great. Okay, cool. 3 to 4 p.m. would work best for me, but I'll try to make it regardless. Okay. Yes, I'm good to have you back. Gotta run. Hope you doing these during a slow time. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll test out a later stream next week. See how people like that. But yeah, thanks again, everybody. Hope you guys either, you know, got some value, learned something. You know, I always want to make these informative and educational. So as always, appreciate you guys joining. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it, and see you guys on X. And hopefully you guys have a good you know, rest of your week. And yeah, I'll be back next week with another one. So thanks everybody.